All right. Okay, so here we are. We're going to do another quick stream. I'm not sure how quick this is going to be. Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. Um, feel a little bit motivated to keep going. Um, let's see if we can make this happen. So, one of the things I've was thinking about is that I'm not going to spend too much time on the outlines, obviously for distribution reasons and being able to resell this character in the marketplace, that kind of a thing. The ideal situation is to provide outlines so that the person can interactively adjust those outlines at will, depending on how close they are to the camera. If they're far away, you can make the outlines thinner. If they're close up, you can make them thicker. It would just make the character easier to see, and in such instances where the body parts overlap each other, it's always nice to have that outline to create that separation. But I'm thinking that I don't have to worry about too much because primarily these characters are for myself, and yes, I will be making them available on toontitan.com, but also to help improve my development speed, I'm just going to leave out these damn outlines. And if I need to later on, I can do another pass to add them in, sort of a 2.0 version of the character, that sort of a thing. Um, Let me bring in a character here and just kind of refresh our memory in terms of where we at right now. So here's the Tonea 1.7 version, and she does have outlines on the body parts, and I want to show you the reason why I'm doing this. So here's our character. I'm gonna get rid of those bones. So when I zoom in, you can see that there's outlines on the edges there, and it's kind of cool to have them because see how from this distance you can barely see that there's any outlines there. So I can get rid of them altogether and there's no visible difference. But if we have an angle that's like far away or whatever, sometimes we do want to make those outlines a little bit more prominent so that we can kind of see those outlines there. So you can kind of see where we're at. You can make them heavy or you can make them thin. And it's kind of a nice little effect. I really like it. But is it worth it to have that outline? Probably not. It's additional added time that I'm adding to my development time, and I'm not sure if it's worth it or not. It probably is for resale purposes. So if I want to make it in a way that I can maximize the value that the customer that's going to buy this at the end can have these options. It's a really cool feature to have. But is it necessary? I'm thinking it's not because ultimately this is for a film, and the film itself is not going to be entirely done in Crazy Talk Animator or whatever. So there is going to be a post process effect that's going to take place. And I'm thinking that in post processing, I can always add an outline using either After Effects or Photoshop with additional elements that's going to give it like little highlights and shadows and stuff. It might still make it look nice, some kind of bevel effect. So you know what, I'm just going to leave out the outlines going forward until further notice. I mean, it does kind of look weird here, So I gotta figure out a different way of adding these outlines. I am gonna put internal outlines for things like these wrinkles and stuff, but I don't necessarily want to have them with a color. So let me experiment a little bit with um, transparent overlays. And one of the things that I've been doing is using black color as a transparency overlay. At 25%, I end up looking at stuff that looks like that, which doesn't look too bad. It blends in with the color. I'm bringing this outline, this timeline here, so we can experiment with the ideal transparency. So this alpha 50% actually. So I want to see if I can get something that looks like that one up there, like this. So it's a little dark. Let's bring it down to 25% maybe. Mm. See, the thing with this is that I'm not getting the tint on it. It's an outline, but I'm not quite getting that, and I don't want to add a color tint to it because then when I change the colors through the render style feature, I am it's not gonna look right. If I have a tint and then I change the color to something else, then those colors are gonna look really weird. So I wish there was an easier way of maybe through the color panel. So we're gonna choose black. And let's see what it looks like at, well, let's see what 45% looks like. 40%. 15. That's close. Let's try 4%. That's too light. Let's try 20%. So if I can go with something like this, it's very close without the tint. Let me see if we can get a little closer. Let's try 25% again. Some considerable lag, probably due to the streaming. That's 25%. Let's try 30. Man, this thing is just not drawing correctly. Let's draw with the mouse. So there's a significant dark tint to it because of the black color. What if I use a gray, a neutral gray? What's that, like 25? Let's try it with the neutral gray color at 30%. Oh, that looks horrible. So the idea is to try to get it as close to that matching right there. If I can figure out where that color is, that would be really sweet. Feels like I'm close. Let's try 2%. So that might end up being it. Like let's see here. Let's try 6. It's not the tint that I want, but it's close enough without looking too jarring. So this is probably the most I'm going to spend on trying to figure out this color. Because obviously, ideally, I want to be able to use that tint, but I don't want to have to use an extra color inside of Crazy Talk Animator. In the render styles, you have a limited number of colors that you can use. So I'm trying to keep that optimized as well. And if I use an overlay, I don't actually have to group that. It just kind of blends in with whatever colors underneath it. We're going to stick with this. You know what? We're going to keep it simple. I'm going to do that way I have red, green, blue, and alpha set to 25%. Maybe there's some kind of, maybe there's something to the math. And if I do this at 0, let me see how it compares. Yeah, we'll just keep it like this. $25, $25, $25, and $25. Okay, so that's what that is. So this is at 25 across the board. That brings this brightness down up to 10%. But if I lower it down, it basically removes all the RGB from it, leaving only the 25%. So this is what black looks like next to each other. And I kind of like this one better. It seems to blend with the purple color a little bit easier. Wish there was like a dodge function to brighten that up a little bit, but I'm not going to touch it anymore. I think that's going to be our magic number here. It's going to be completely black at 25%. You know what? I feel like I can still push it. Let's try 33%. Is that too dark? Yeah, it feels like it's a little too dark. We're going to stick to 25%. That's going to be our outline, our outline shading. So 0, 0, 0, 25. That's how we're going to paint our outlines. And we're only going to paint those on the inside of the shapes. We're not going to do outlines on the outsides. And that's going to give our character an overall cohesiveness to it. And going forward, we're not going to bother too much with trying to figure out the outlines for the shapes themselves. So let's get down to business. I'm going to edit this. Let's see here. I'm going to double click and start editing these body parts so that I no longer have outlines. Now, yesterday when we were working, I didn't quite explain why I have these two different shapes overlapping, but I want you to see what happens when I do this, like rotation. Notice how the bottom of the shirt stays in place while the top of the shirt bends around. So it creates a pretty cool effect thing here. I mean, obviously with a little outline, it adds a little bit to it as well. But we're going to get rid of the outlines on the edges. So so these are going to be 25%. Gotta make sure we're doing everything consistently. 0, 0, 0, and 25. Control X. Paste in place. I'm gonna go in here, do the same thing to this section here. Control X. Fill those little gaps. Paste in place. Make sure we group them, that way they don't interfere. And I do get that little purple feel to it, so that's working out perfectly fine. Or is it because I did it wrong? Okay, there we go. It's not as purple as I wanted it to be, but it's still kind of, it's consistent. Okay, let's get rid of the outline here. Let's get rid of the outline there. Definitely get rid of all these outlines here. Okay. And this is just kind of cleaning up our stuff from yesterday, really. But going forward, this is going to be a million times easier because we don't have to worry about the exterior outlines anymore. So we're just going to be able to draw with shapes. And the only outlines that we're going to be drawing is the interior shapes, interior outlines, just to kind of separate that. Okay, that takes care of that. So this should make editing the other angles significantly faster. And let's see how she bends when I do that. She still looks pretty nice. And of course, with a little post-processing, I can always add that extra outline around the edges and stuff. So um, that's probably going to be the best option in this case, I think. So let's let's draw a little swatch here so that we can have a place to sample the color from in the future. That way later on, once I change my color around, I can always come back and just grab it from there. I don't have to worry about mixing it too much, even though it's not that bad. Um, so we'll grab a copy of this skin color. And let's get to work finally. So we'll see how fast this goes now that we have a better approach. Some little gaps in here that are kind of weird. I'm not gonna worry about all this multiple layer stuff at this point anymore. One of the things about this particular method where we're just basically doing a solid color is that we also don't have to worry too much about the masking that's going to take place later on, because this is just going to blend in. I don't even have to worry about masking it too much inside of Crazy Talk Animator, because it's just automatically going to blend in. It's the same color. And I could be wrong. I mean, I may end up having to double back my work and just get back to it, you know. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. Forgot I had Toon Titan here. All right, let's see if we can bring in that shirt using some guidelines to kind of get an idea of where everything goes. So I'm going to try to get that collar area. It needs to go all the way down here. Yeah, I'm going to have to use the mouse. It's a lot of lag on my graphics tablet right now. I might have to restart my computer at some point. It's gonna make it very difficult to work if it keeps going. So I'm using these guides as a way to kind of measure out. The distances here. Maybe I can cheat a little bit with some of these symbols. I don't know if I can get away with this, but if I go to brightness and bring down the brightness just a slight bit, just enough to make a difference. Like a 2% difference when we look at them compared to each other. That way we can see the two, like a separation there. I don't know if that would make a difference. Let's play around with it for now. Let's do a 10% difference. That way, when the arms overlap or whatever, I really don't expect much. I mean, I don't think I have to go through all that, but that does create a bit of a separation there. I don't know how important that is. I can always come back and mess with it later. You know what? For now, I'm just gonna leave it alone. I don't want to create additional work for myself that's not I don't need to do. All right, but it is an idea. Okay, let's get these shorts. Bottom of the shorts is somewhere right there. And Tony actually has a bit of a butt, so we're gonna make her butt a little bit bigger. Something like that. Okay, let's do that again. Give her some nice padding. This thing is just not drawing correctly. Let's try it like this. We don't want to make it too big. All right, I think that's how we're gonna pull it off. And we need to be able to recreate this with just basic shapes. All right. Let's get it done. It's too much lag on my tablet. I'm gonna have to use the mouse. Should have done this on a separate layer. But that's how you learn. Group that together so it doesn't interfere. Let's go back and repaint these. I'm going to add the little pocket that goes under there. These little corners can be a pain in the butt. All right. That should be enough. There is such a thing as too many details. I wish that Crazy Talk Animator supported a lot of the features that Flash or Adobe Animate supports, because it would be so easy for me to come in here and add coloring effects. I'll give you an example. I mean, obviously, if I'm animating inside of Flash, this is something that I can do quite easily. Let's put a bevel. I could make all sorts of fancy little things in here. Give it that kind of a round shape. And you know what? There might be something that I can experiment with. But I know that Crazy Talk Animator is not going to support this. Unless I export as bitmap. I don't know if that'll work. The little blending mask those edges out, then you have that nice little curve there. It's like a dynamic shadow. Notice how the shadow's at the bottom there, and it stays over there. It's a pretty cool effect. I wish we could make use of all this stuff because it's the kind of stuff that would really give it that feature film quality look to it. Unfortunately, the software doesn't support it, so we can't use it. These weird little shoe things. I need to be able to define this section here. So I guess I'm going to turn it into an outline. Modify shape, convert lines to fills. Maybe I should group it first. That way it doesn't screw it up too much. I'm gonna have to make a Stream Deck shortcut for this so I can create these shadows a little bit better without having to go through too much back and forth. I'm finding that I'm having to do too much clicking around to get those settings right. So I'm gonna have to create my own little shortcut for it. So that really wasn't too bad. It's just kind of getting getting into the groove of things. Let's test it out. And part of me just wants to stop the stream and take care of the rest of it off the air. But I think what I want to do is I just want to stream the entire thing. That way I can get a sense of how long the entire thing took me at the end of the day from start to finish. And see, this is why I don't like not having outlines because, stuff just blends. So it's not ideal. I think I do need to have some kind of outlines. We're gonna have to sort that out a little bit. Even if it's just like some kind of offset situation. Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with a better outlining thing. Because we need to be able to see those hands and those overlapping areas. Okay, so that's about another hour down the pipeline. So that I think that puts us what 5 hours maybe into the project. I think maybe six, probably five. So we're still doing pretty damn good for time. I remember when I first started doing these things, it used to take me like 10 hours just to do one angle. That was kind of ridiculous. So and here we are. We got pretty much all the angles and stuff, and we're still about 5 hours into it barely. So we're we're making really good progress. Let's adjust this layering. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Wish there was a better way to like create separation between those body sprites. I have a feeling I'm gonna have to make that booty a little bit bigger to make room for those leg movements. Or I could just add a layer of blue to the thigh. Window extensions to tighten. Let's see here. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. It's gonna take a little bit of figuring out, but it looks like it's doable. Might have to do the shorts part as part of the leg. That way the whole thing moves around. I have a feeling that's going to be the best option. And then the hip area is just going to have to be blue. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. All right. We'll take a look at it in the next episode.